Most men have no idea what younger women really want from older men, and that's why 90% of you are failing before you even start. You think it's about money, you think it's about gifts, status, or taking her to fancy places. You couldn't be more wrong. If that's all you rely on, she will lose interest faster than you can blink. But what I'm about to tell you, this is not what anyone else will say. This is the truth that will change the way you think about attraction forever. By the end of this video, you'll see exactly why she's drawn to some men instinctively, why she stays with certain older men, and why so many others are left chasing shadows, desperate and ignored. I'm going to break down the hidden psychological forces at play, these signals she's unconsciously scanning for the moment she meets you, the energy that actually pulls her in, and the mistakes you're making every day without even realizing it. You'll discover why emotional certainty, maturity, and leadership matter far more than your bank account. Why trying too hard, overcompensating, or being desperate destroys attraction before you even notice. And most importantly, you'll learn how to embody the kind of presence that makes her stop testing you, stop playing games, and start being drawn to you effortlessly. This isn't theory. This isn't fluff. This is the truth that will shock you because no one else will tell it to you. If you're ready to finally understand what younger women are really looking for, to unlock the magnetic energy that makes them respect, admire, and stay with you, then watch this video until the very end. What you are about to learn will make you see relationships, attraction, and connection in a way you've never seen before. And it will change your life forever. Most men make the same fatal mistake when it comes to younger women. They see youth and beauty and immediately assume it comes with a price tag. They think, if I am successful enough, if I have money, if I have status, she will want me. And for a moment, it feels true. They buy her dinners, lavish gifts, take her to exotic places, and believe each of these gestures is a ticket to her affection. But here's the shocking truth that is only the surface. Younger women don't come to older men for the things most men think they do: money, cars, fancy vacations. Those are temporary, fleeting, and hollow. They can impress for a night, they can spark attraction for a moment, but they cannot bind a heart. What younger women truly chase, what they really long for, is something much deeper, something invisible, yet undeniable. They chase emotional certainty. Emotional certainty is not something you can buy, and it is not something you can fake. It is a state of being, a way of carrying yourself that tells her without words that you are unshakable, that you are grounded, that no matter what the world throws at you, you will not collapse. Think about it. When a young woman meets an older man, what she feels first is not his bank account. She feels the way he moves through the world. She feels the calmness in his voice, the steadiness in his presence, the confidence that is not loud or aggressive, but subtle, quiet, and unwavering. This is magnetic. This is rare. This is the invisible currency that draws her in more powerfully than any material gift. Most men underestimate this because society has taught them to measure success in dollars, cars, and status symbols. They forget that relationships at their core are about security, trust, and emotional resonance. Younger women are not chasing older men to upgrade their lifestyle. They are chasing men who can make them feel safe in their own skin. They are chasing men who can anchor them when life gets chaotic. They are chasing men who can absorb their fears without judgment, who can listen without panic, who can hold space for their emotions without trying to control or fix everything. That is what they are looking for. That is the real magnetism that age can provide when paired with emotional mastery. Now, this is not to say that money or success is irrelevant. Of course, stability in life matters. But here's the nuance that most men miss: money without presence is invisible. Success without emotional authority is meaningless. A man can be wealthy and accomplished, but if he is anxious, insecure, desperate for validation, or emotionally reactive, a younger woman will not see him as a man worth following. She will see him as a man trying too hard, a man who is incomplete, a man who is pretending that wealth or status can compensate for a lack of inner stability. And that pretense is not only unattractive, it is repulsive to the deeper instincts of a woman who is looking for certainty. Certainty, then, is the ultimate form of attraction. It is the energy that says, I have survived life, I have faced challenges, I have made mistakes, and I have come out stronger. It is the calm confidence in your decisions, the measured responses to chaos, the patience in moments when others panic. Younger women can sense it immediately because, on some level, they are searching for it subconsciously. They are looking for a man whose stability mirrors the stability they crave, but often have never experienced. They are looking for a man who can absorb the uncertainty of the world so that they can relax, breathe, and simply be themselves without the constant anxiety of whether they are making the right choices or whether the man they are with will crumble when things get tough. You see, the world has made younger women wary. They have grown up seeing men chase them for superficial reasons, chasing youth and beauty as if it were currency. They have witnessed emotional instability disguised as confidence. They have experienced rejection, uncertainty, and games. And so when an older man arrives who does not chase, who does not demand, who does not overcompensate with gestures or words, it creates an immediate sense of relief, a quiet fascination, a magnetic pull. It is as if the universe itself has given them a safe harbor. And that is why the misconception that money equals attraction is so dangerous. Because if an older man relies on money alone, he will never understand the power of presence, and he will always be at risk of losing her no matter how much he gives. This is why emotional certainty is the first and most important key point in understanding younger women, because it flips the conventional narrative on its head. It tells you that attraction is not about proving, performing, or overcompensating. It is about cultivating yourself into a man whose internal state is unshakable, a man whose calmness speaks louder than any words, a man whose confidence is not loud but quiet, unwavering, and self-evident. When a younger woman senses that energy, she feels safe, she feels understood, she feels drawn. And that connection, born of presence and certainty, is far more enduring than anything money could buy. Was many men never reach this level because they are focused on the wrong measures of success. They buy fancy cars, expensive clothes, and lavish gifts, thinking these are the keys to attraction. And while these things may create temporary interest, they are hollow foundations. They are hollow foundations. They are like building a house on sand. The moment life challenges you, the illusion crumbles. But when you cultivate emotional certainty, when you build yourself into a man who can handle himself, your life, and others without fear or desperation, you become magnetic in a way that money cannot touch. Younger women feel it instinctively. They do not need to analyze it. They do not need to discuss it. They sense it and they respond. So how do you cultivate this certainty? You start by mastering yourself. You start by understanding your own values, your own boundaries, and your own principles. You stop seeking validation from others and start holding yourself accountable for your own life. You embrace challenges as lessons, not threats. You learn patience, emotional regulation, and self-discipline. You stop reacting impulsively and start responding thoughtfully. You stop trying to impress and you start living with purpose. When you do this, you are no longer chasing a younger woman. Instead, she begins to chase you. drawn to the energy that you radiate naturally, without effort, without manipulation, without performance. And this ultimately is the lesson that older men rarely learn, but desperately need to understand. Younger, whoa, men are not trophies. They are not prizes to be won with money, gifts, or status. They are individuals with instincts finely tuned to detect stability, authenticity, and emotional mastery. If you can offer that, you become rare. You become magnetic. You become the man who can attract not just youth or beauty, but genuine connection, respect, and loyalty. And nothing in the world, no amount of money, can replicate that power. So as we reflect on this, the takeaway is simple yet profound. Younger women only want one thing from older men at the deepest level, and it is not what most men think. They want emotional certainty. They want to know that when they are with you, they are safe, they are understood, and they can trust the stability of your presence in a world that is unpredictable and often chaotic. They want a man whose internal world is stronger than external circumstances. And when you cultivate that, everything else, attraction, respect, connection, flows naturally. So, older men, the question is no longer how much you can spend or how many things you can buy. The question is, how strong are you internally? How grounded are you emotionally? How much certainty can you bring into her life, not as a show, but as an unshakable truth of who you are? Focus on this, and you will never have to chase again. Focus on this, and you will understand what younger women truly want, and it is far more powerful, rare, and valuable than anything money could ever buy. And here is the closing thought to leave with you. A younger woman will forget the gifts, the trips, the money, but she will never forget the man who made her feel safe, seen, and secure. Be that man, become that man, and everything else will follow naturally. When older men think about why younger women are attracted to them, they almost always focus on the wrong things. They think about appearances, about how much younger they look compared to them, about the differences in energy or physical vitality. They think about how the gap in age somehow gives them an advantage in experience, in wisdom, in perceived dominance. And while some of that plays a role, it is not the core of what draws a younger woman to an older man. What really attracts her is not the age itself. It's the energy that age represents, the presence, the maturity, the way he carries himself, the unspoken signals that say he has lived, he has learned, and he has grown stronger because of it. Age is just a number. Youth fades, beauty changes, circumstances shift, but the energy that comes from experience, from survival, from lessons learned the hard way, that is timeless, that is magnetic. That is the invisible thread that pulls a younger woman closer without her even realizing why she feels it. She doesn't consciously analyze the wrinkles in your face or the lines in your hands. She feels the calmness in your presence. She feels the certainty in your decisions. She feels the quiet authority that comes from a man who has been tested by life and has endured. That is the real draw, and most men never understand it. You see, when a younger woman meets an older man, she instinctively scans for signals of competence, stability, and emotional availability. These are not things she can put on a checklist. They are not trophies or certifications. They are subtleties in the way you talk, in the way you hold space, in the way you handle stress, in the way you treat others. The older man who is confident but not arrogant, who speaks with clarity but does not dominate the conversation, who listens without judgment bar. T also sets boundaries without guilt. That man exudes an energy that is irresistible. It is the energy of someone who is secure in himself, who does not need constant validation, who can navigate life without panic, without drama, without pretending to be someone he is not. This is why the age difference alone is meaningless if it is not accompanied by presence. Many older men attempt to impress younger women with stories of their accomplishments, the luxury they can afford, the things they have done, the places they have traveled. And while these things can momentarily capture attention, they do not create lasting attraction. They do not build the deep connection that younger women are unconsciously searching for. Because what she really responds to is the way your life has shaped you into a man who can carry the weight of his experiences and still remain calm, composed, and generous in his emotional energy. Maturity is not simply knowing more or having lived longer. Maturity is the ability to handle complexity without fear, to respond instead of reacting, to listen and empathize without being overwhelmed, to maintain your center when chaos surrounds you. And younger women, whether they admit it or not, are drawn to that energy because they are looking for a safe anchor in a world that is increasingly unstable, unpredictable, and chaotic. They may chase excitement, fun, or novelty with their peers, but when it comes to attachment and connection, they are instinctively wired to seek the man whose presence gives them a sense of certainty, reliability, and emotional stability. Now, here's something that shocks most men. It is not physical strength that draws her. It is not status. It is not power in the conventional sense. What draws her is the energy that communicates. I am unshakable. I am calm. I am experienced. I can handle what life throws at me, and I am grounded enough to hold you without judgment. That is the subtle but profound difference that separates a man who can attract and sustain a younger woman's admiration from one who cannot. And the sad reality is, most men never even notice it because they are too busy trying to impress, to perform, to be seen as successful or desirable in external terms. They fail to cultivate the internal qualities that younger women unconsciously respond to. Think about it in practical terms. When you enter a room, how do you make people feel? Do they sense tension, anxiety, or desperation? Or do they sense calm, confidence, and presence? Younger women are highly sensitive to these signals, even if they cannot articulate them. When they feel tension or desperation, they instinctively distance themselves. When they feel calm and certainty, they gravitate toward it. The older man who has cultivated this presence is magnetic because he offers what younger men cannot: the quiet reassurance that life can be handled, that emotions can be managed. That connection does not have to be complicated by chaos or insecurity. And here's the part that most men misunderstand. This energy is not about controlling her, dominating her, or being overly assertive. It is not about telling her what to do or making her dependent on you in a manipulative way. True magnetic energy is subtle, respectful, and self-contained. It is the kind of energy that allows a younger woman to feel safe enough to be herself, soft enough to express vulnerability, and confident enough to relax her guard. When she senses this, the attraction deepens exponentially because it is no longer superficial. It becomes rooted in psychological resonance, in the subconscious recognition that this man is different from the boys who have let her down, who have confused her, who have created instability in her life. Many older men, unfortunately, miss this completely. They confuse attraction with flattery, attention, or superficial excitement. They think that gifts, compliments, and gestures are what a younger woman woman wants most. And yes, those things can spark initial interest, but they are fleeting. They cannot create a foundation for lasting attraction because they do not build certainty. A younger woman may enjoy a man who entertains her, but she will stay with the man who embodies calm, stability, and grounded authority. And this is the profound shift in perspective that older men must internalize if they truly want to understand what younger women are looking for. The energy you carry is a reflection of the life you have lived. Every challenge you have faced, every failure you have endured, every lesson you have learned contributes to the aura of certainty that younger women sense instinctively. They are drawn not to the superficial aspects of age, but to the embodiment of experience that age allows you to cultivate. And this is why older men who try to act younger, who chase external validation, who attempt to perform or impress, often fail to attract in a meaningful way. Their energy is misaligned with what younger women instinctively seek, and no amount of money or status can compensate for it. So, how do you cultivate this energy? It starts with self mastery. It starts with understanding your own value, your own boundaries, and your own emotional regulation. It starts with living a life that is consistent with your principles and purpose rather than trying to fit an external image of what you think a woman wants. It requires patience, reflection, and the courage to confront your own weaknesses, to process your past, and to grow beyond it. The more grounded, secure, and centered you become, the more magnetic your presence will be, and the more naturally younger women will be drawn to it. Ultimately, what younger women are attracted to in older men is not a superficial characteristic, but a deeper energetic truth. They are drawn to the embodiment of certainty, maturity, and presence. They are drawn to the man who has survived life's challenges and emerged stronger, wiser, and emotionally grounded. They are drawn to the energy that allows them to feel safe, seen, and understood. And this is a lesson that older men must take seriously if they hope to attract and sustain meaningful connection with younger women. So here is the closing thought. Younger women do not chase age, money, or status. They chase the energy that age can produce when it is paired with self-mastery, emotional depth, and presence. If you cultivate that energy, you do not need to perform or impress. You do not need to chase. You become magnetic, irresistible, and rare. And in a world where stability and certainty are increasingly scarce, that is the true power of an older man. Focus on building your presence, your maturity, and your certainty. Be the man who embodies these qualities, because when you do, attraction, respect, and genuine connection will follow naturally, effortlessly, undeniably, and permanently. When older men think about attraction, they often overlook the most fundamental truth about younger women. They are not chasing you for superficial reasons. They are not chasing you for your looks, your gifts, your money, or even your status. What younger women crave more than anything is emotional safety, and this is a truth so rarely spoken about that it shocks most men when they hear it, because society has taught them to focus on the wrong measures of success in relationships. Men are trained to think that confidence, charm, and wealth are the ultimate keys to attraction. And while those things can spark interest, they cannot create the deep connection that younger women are unconsciously searching for. What she is truly seeking is a man who can hold her emotionally without breaking, a man who can create a space where she feels seen, understood, and secure. Younger women are constantly navigating a world that is chaotic, uncertain, and often disappointing. They experience relationships with men their own age and find inconsistency, games, ego battles, and unpredictability. They witness attraction mixed with selfishness, excitement mixed with anxiety, and love mixed with immaturity. In such an environment, emotional safety becomes not a luxury, but necessity. Emotional safety is the ability to feel completely yourself without fearing judgment, manipulation, or rejection. It is the feeling that your emotions will not be weaponized against you, that your vulnerability will not be exploited, that your inner world can exploit it, that your inner world can exist without constantly having to perform or defend yourself. And that is what younger women are instinctively scanning for when they are drawn to older men. The paradox is this: most men confuse emotional safety with control or dominance. They believe that creating emotional safety means controlling her, making rules, or ensuring compliance. But true emotional safety comes from self-mastery, not external control. It comes from a man who has mastered his own emotions, who is aware of his triggers, who can respond to chaos without panic, and who can hold space for another human being without needing to fix, judge, or manipulate. When a younger woman senses that presence, she relaxes, she stops questioning, she stops testing, she stops performing, she begins to show up as herself in a way she rarely can with others. That is the core of what she seeks, the energy that allows her to feel safe in her own skin. Think about the implications of this. Emotional safety is not about what you say or do on the surface. It is about the energy you radiate. It is about the quiet confidence that comes from knowing who you are and what you stand for. It is about the consistency in your actions, the clarity in your decisions, and the absence of desperation in your presence. Younger women do not want men who overreact, who need constant validation, or who are emotionally unpredictable. Those men create stress, anxiety, and doubt. But a man who exudes calm, who maintains his center in the face of challenges, who is patient with emotions without being controlling, that is the man who naturally attracts younger women at a profound, almost subconscious level. Many older men fail to see this because they are focused on external measures. They think, if I take her on extravagant trips, buy her expensive gifts, or prove my wealth and power, she will feel secure. But the truth is, emotional safety is internal. It cannot be bought. It cannot be faked. You cannot compensate for a lack of emotional depth with material wealth. A younger woman may enjoy the temporary excitement of luxury, but she will not stay for it. She will not commit to it. She may smile, she may seem grateful, but her subconscious is scanning, evaluating, and sensing whether this man can be her anchor in the storms of life. That is what she is looking for, and that is what most men fail to deliver. Here is the subtle truth most men do not understand. Emotional safety is the foundation of trust, and trust is the foundation of attraction. Younger women do not trust a man because he says he is trustworthy. They trust a man because they feel it in his presence. They trust a man because they have seen him handle life, handle conflict, handle pressure without losing his composure. They trust a man because his calmness assures them that he can carry the weight of both his own life and, when necessary, the emotional weight of the relationship without panic or instability. And when that trust exists, attraction becomes effortless. When that trust is absent, no amount of external charm, physical appeal, or material wealth will suffice. The most powerful aspect of emotional safety is that it creates space for intimacy to grow. When a younger woman feels safe, she opens up. She shares her fears, her dreams, her vulnerabilities. She shows parts of herself that she hides from others. She trusts her instincts to be soft, gentle, and authentic without fearing judgment. That is the depth of connection that most men never achieve because they are too busy trying to impress, perform, or assert dominance. But a man who prioritizes emotional mastery over superficial measures of success naturally creates the conditions for this connection. He does not need to manipulate, he does not need to chase, and he does not need to prove himself. His presence alone communicates safety, stability, and reliability, and that is far more powerful than anything money can buy. It is also important to understand why younger women are so drawn to emotional safety in older men specifically. It is not simply because he is older, nor because he has more experience. It is because his energy often embodies what they subconsciously crave: calm, grounded authority without arrogance, resilience without aggression, and maturity without rigidity. Younger men, by contrast, often exude volatility, inconsistency, and uncertainty. They may be charming, energetic, or playful, but they rarely possess the internal stability that allows a woman to truly relax and feel secure. That difference, though subtle, is profound. It is not visible on the surface. It is felt deeply, almost instinctively, and it is magnetic in ways that few men ever recognize, And here lies the challenge. Emotional safety is not passive. It requires self-awareness, discipline, and intentional growth. A man must understand his emotions, his patterns, and his triggers. He must practice patience, empathy, and non-reactivity. He must cultivate a life that is aligned with his values and purpose. It is not something that can be faked with gestures, gifts, or words. It must be embodied, lived, and consistently demonstrated. Only then does it become a natural signal that draws a younger woman in, not just superficially, but at the level of deep psychological resonance. Finally, the paradox is that men who focus on building emotional safety do not need to chase. They do not need to perform or overcompensate. They become rare, magnetic, and irresistible without effort. Their presence alone is enough to attract the kind of younger women who value depth, stability, and trust. And this ultimately is the lesson that most men miss. It is not about what you give externally, but what you carry internally. Emotional safety is the invisible currency that younger women subconsciously seek, and it is far more valuable than money, gifts, or superficial charm. So here is the closing for this key point. Younger women are not looking for excitement, luxury, or material proof of worth. They are looking for emotional safety, the kind that can only be offered by a man who has mastered himself, who carries calmness, stability, and trustworthiness as a natural energy. Cultivate that energy, and you will not only attract her, but you will also create a relationship rooted in depth, respect, and enduring connection. Remember, gifts fade, beauty fades, wealth can fluctuate, but emotional safety endures. Be the man who embodies it, and everything else will naturally follow. One of the biggest mistakes older men make with younger women is desperation. And when I say desperation, I don't mean simply wanting her affection. I mean the kind of desperation that changes your energy, your presence, and ultimately your value in her eyes. Desperation is subtle, and many men don't even realize they are doing it. It shows up in the need to constantly prove themselves, to over-explain every gesture, to overperform with money, gifts, and attention, and to seek validation from a reaction instead of from within. It is an invisible signal that communicates fear, insecurity, and dependence. And younger women sense it instantly. The moment an older man becomes desperate, the attraction he once had begins to evaporate. She may not say anything, and she may even stay for a while, but the subtle shift is palpable. Her subconscious recognizes the change. Where once there was stability, now there is tension. Where once there was calm authority, now there is anxiety. Desperation is like a shadow that erodes the foundation of attraction, and no amount of charm, money, or physical appeal can compensate for it. The irony is that many men do this unconsciously because they take interest for ownership, attention for love, or presence for approval. They believe that they have to constantly prove themselves to keep her interest, when in reality, the strongest men are those who need nothing outside themselves to maintain their worth. Think about it for a moment. What happens when you overcompensate? You begin to perform. You begin to measure your every word, your every action, your every gesture against the unspoken standard of what will she think of me. That energy is heavy, constrictive, and exhausting, both for you and for her. Younger women are deeply intuitive. They can feel the weight of overcompensation as clearly as they can feel calm confidence. When a man is trying too hard, he is no longer magnetic. He is no longer a source of certainty. He becomes just another man blending into the noise of the world, competing for her attention with insecurity disguised as effort. And this is exactly why so many older men fail. Despite all the advantages they might have, they give away their power by letting fear, neediness, and desperation dictate their behavior. The lesson here is profound but simple. Attraction is not created through effort. Attraction is a reflection of presence, of internal stability, and of unshakable confidence. Younger women are drawn to men who live from a state of abundance within themselves, not men who live from scarcity, fear, or the need for approval. This is why emotional mastery is more powerful than any material gesture. When you act from a place of desperation, you signal scarcity, weakness, and unpredictability. When you act from a place of confidence, self-reliance, and calm, you signal stability, strength, and emotional authority. And younger women are subconsciously wired to respond to those signals. Many older men make another fatal error. They try to impress rather than embody. They think that if they buy the right gifts, take her to the right places, or say the right things, they can earn attraction. But attraction is not transactional. It is not a ledger of actions and reactions. It is energetic. It is psychological. It is deeply rooted in the subconscious recognition of strength, presence, and emotional stability. A younger woman may appreciate gifts or gestures, but if they come from desperation or overcompensation, they do not create respect. They create a subtle sense of imbalance that she feels unconsciously and may eventually resent. This is why restraint is such a powerful tool in attraction. Restraint does not mean indifference. It means understanding your value, controlling your impulses, and not allowing fear to dictate your actions. It means recognizing that her interest does not need to be earned or bought. It means understanding that your presence, your energy, and your emotional mastery are more magnetic than any superficial performance. And the paradox is that the more you stop trying to prove yourself, the more magnetic you become. The more you stop seeking validation from her reactions, the more she is drawn to you naturally. Desperation is often linked to fear. Fear of losing her, fear of being rejected, fear of not being enough. And this fear manifests in behavior that is not aligned with your highest self. It manifests as over-texting, over-gifting, over-explaining, and over-complicating simple interactions. It manifests as attempts to control outcomes that cannot be controlled. And every time that fear is expressed, even subtly, it reduces your attractiveness. Younger women are not just attracted to what you do, they are attracted to the emotional energy you carry, and desperation distorts that energy. Here's the brutal truth. The moment you let fear dictate your actions, you are no longer the man she came to admire. You are no longer the embodiment of calm authority. You are no longer rare. You are no longer magnetic. And yet, so many older men fall into this trap without even realizing it, thinking that effort equals attraction, that proving yourself equals love, and that constant validation equals connection. Nothing could be further from the truth. The most powerful men understand that attraction is about emotional equilibrium, not performance. They understand that they cannot control her feelings, and they do not try. They understand that respect and desire are earned through presence, stability, and character, not through actions that betray insecurity. They understand that the more they cultivate internal certainty, the more naturally women are drawn to them. And this is why desperation is such a dangerous trap. It represents the opposite of everything that is truly attractive. It is scarcity in motion, whereas attraction comes from abundance. Another subtle effect of desperation is that it shifts the balance of power in the relationship. When a man acts from fear or neediness, he hands over emotional authority to the woman. She unconsciously recognizes the shift, and the dynamic becomes less about connection and more about negotiation, manipulation, or testing. What he thinks is effort, she experiences as imbalance. What he thinks is love, she experiences as dependency, and this undermines the very foundation of attraction that drew her to him in the first place. The antidote is simple in theory, though challenging in practice. Cultivate independence, self-respect, and emotional self-mastery. Understand that your worth is inherent, not contingent on her attention or approval. Act from a place of calm confidence rather than anxious performance. Set boundaries with grace. Allow space for both yourself and her. And most importantly, recognize that her presence in your life is a bonus, not a necessity for your happiness or validation. This shift in mindset transforms your energy, restores your magnetism, and reinforces the emotional safety that younger women are instinctively drawn to. Finally, remember this. The men who attract younger women most effortlessly are not the men who try hardest. They are the men who have cultivated themselves, their presence, and their internal certainty. They do not chase. They do not over-explain. They do not perform for approval. Their energy speaks for itself, and it communicates what no words or gifts ever could, that they are strong, reliable, and emotionally grounded. And that is the difference between a man who maintains attraction and a man who loses it, despite his best intentions. So here is the closing thought. Overcompensation, effort driven by fear, and desperation will always erode attraction. Younger women are drawn not to what you do to prove yourself, but to who you are when you do nothing to impress. Cultivate internal certainty, act from abundance, and embody emotional mastery. Stop chasing, stop performing, and let your presence do the work. The more you do this, the more magnetic you become, the more respect you earn, and the deeper the connection grows. Because in the end, fear-driven effort is the enemy of attraction, and self-mastery is its most powerful ally. The final truth that most older men fail to understand about younger women is simple but profound. They stay not because of attraction alone, not because of appearances, wealth, or gifts, but because of emotional leadership. And when I say emotional leadership, I don't mean controlling her, dictating her actions, or asserting dominance in a toxic way. I mean guiding, supporting, and holding space with a presence that communicates clarity, strength, and stability. Younger women are instinctively drawn to men who can lead emotionally because life is unpredictable, messy, and often overwhelming. When a man can navigate his own emotions and remain grounded, he offers something far more valuable than excitement or material comfort. He offers trust, confidence, and the assurance that she is safe in his presence. Too many men underestimate this because they confuse leadership with authority or power. They think that because they are older, more experienced, or successful, they automatically have influence in a relationship. But influence in a relationship is not about age, income, or accomplishments. It is about presence, clarity, and emotional stability. It is about being the kind of man who can absorb tension, navigate challenges, and respond rather than react. It is about making decisions with calm and not letting emotions dictate behavior. This is the kind of leadership that younger women sense instinctively and respond to, and it is rare precisely because it requires self-mastery. Younger women do not stay with older men simply because they are older. They stay because they feel that this man has something they cannot yet cultivate in themselves: stability, wisdom, and clarity of purpose. They feel a sense of alignment when he is present, a sense of safety and trust that is difficult to articulate but impossible to ignore. And when a man leads in this way, he becomes magnetic in a way that superficial charm, its or status can never achieve. Its or status can never achieve. Leadership here is not about control. It is about creating space for her to be her true self while simultaneously modeling the emotional strength she admires and desires. Consider this. Many younger women have experienced chaos in their interactions with men their own age. They have encountered uncertainty, impulsiveness, games, ego clashes, and emotional volatility. These experiences leave them cautious, hesitant, and wary. When they meet an older man who embodies emotional leadership, they feel a release. They feel a space where they can relax without fear of judgment, where vulnerability is not punished, where emotions are validated, not dismissed. That is a rare and powerful magnetism, and it is the reason they often remain loyal and invested in relationships with men who can provide it. It is also crucial to understand that emotional leadership is not something that can be performed or faked. Younger women are incredibly intuitive. They can sense when a man is acting or pretending, and no amount of effort can conceal insecurity or inconsistency. True leadership comes from internal mastery, from having navigated one's own life, confronted personal fears, and emerged stronger, wiser, and more emotionally grounded. When a man operates from that place, his presence communicates something deeper than words ever could. It communicates reliability, trustworthiness, and the subtle but undeniable sense that life will feel manageable when she is with him. Many older men make the critical mistake of thinking they need to impress to maintain this connection. They overcompensate with gifts, attention, flattery, or displays of status, believing these actions will secure her loyalty. But the moment a man shifts from leading to proving, from being present to performing, he undermines the very energy that initially drew her. Leadership in emotional terms is about self-possession. It is about being the calm center in a storm. It is about guiding without controlling, showing strength without arrogance, and offering clarity without force. When a man can do this, younger women are naturally drawn to him, not out of fear, not out of obligation, but out of deep-seated trust and admiration. Another critical aspect of emotional leadership is consistency. Younger women are attuned to patterns and rhythms in behavior. They are less impressed by grand gestures or occasional displays of strength, and more influenced by the steady, reliable presence of a man who can navigate life's ups and downs without losing composure. Consistency communicates trustworthiness. It communicates that she can depend on you, that you are predictable in the best sense, and that the space you provide for her is safe and stable. Leadership without consistency is empty. It may initially attract, but it will not sustain. And this is why men who understand this principle have relationships that are deeper, more resilient, and more rewarding than men who rely solely on superficial attraction or performance. Let's also explore the psychological dimension of this. Many younger women have experienced emotional turbulence, uncertainty, or lack of guidance in their formative years. Their subconscious is often seeking a model of stability, not control, not dominance. B, you to an example of how to navigate life with clarity, courage, and integrity. An older man who demonstrates this energy provides a template for trust and resilience. He allows her nervous system to settle. He models strength without aggression, confidence without arrogance, and presence without pressure. This is leadership in its purest form, and it is profoundly attractive on a level that goes far beyond the physical. Here is another truth that few men recognize. Younger women often measure the emotional climate of a man's life more than they measure his words or actions. They sense whether he is reactive or composed, whether he handles pressure or crumbles, whether he makes decisions with calm clarity or is driven by impulsive emotion. These observations, often unconscious, are more powerful than any verbal declaration or material gift. The man who leads emotionally, who embodies calm authority, who navigates life with self-possession, becomes magnetic because he creates the emotional conditions that women instinctively crave: safety, stability, and clarity. This is why trying to control a younger woman, to dominate her, or to assert superiority is a mistake. Leadership is not domination, it is guidance. It is providing a secure space where she can express herself freely and fully, while simultaneously modeling the emotional strength and maturity she admires. When this balance exists, attraction becomes effortless. When it does not, tension, insecurity, and imbalance creep in, eroding connection and undermining the relationship. The most subtle but critical aspect of this leadership is that it must be internal, not performative. Younger women can detect pretense instantly. They can feel the difference between a man who has truly mastered himself and one who is trying to appear mastered. They respond to presence, not performance. They respond to calm authority, not bravado. They respond to consistency, not chaos. And when an older man embodies these qualities, he creates a resonance that transcends superficial attraction. He creates loyalty, trust, and a connection that is rare, deep, and lasting. Ultimately, emotional leadership is about being the man who can hold himself and, by extension, hold the relationship with grace and clarity. It is about being the anchor, not the storm. It is about creating a dynamic where a younger woman feels safe, understood, and respected, not controlled, manipulated, or managed. And when a man achieves this, he does not need to chase, perform, or overcompensate. He simply exists as a rare presence, magnetic and unshakable, and the relationship flows naturally around that energy. So here is the closing thought for this final key point. Younger women stay not for appearances, gifts, or status. They stay for emotional leadership. They stay for the man who can navigate life with clarity, strength, and calm. They stay for the presence that allows them to feel safe, understood, and respected. And this is the energy that defines lasting attraction, deep connection, and meaningful relationships. Become that man. Cultivate emotional leadership. Hold space without controlling, guide without forcing, and embody stability without arrogance. When you do, everything else, respect, attraction, trust, and love, will follow naturally inevitably and permanently.